Hi guys, today I wanted to talk with you briefly about in-kind. We're going to keep it kind of short and sweet. So what I wanted to focus on today is filling out the cover sheet. You do have two attachments. One attachment is blank. That is just for you to have to use. That way you have it in case you weren't sure where to find it. And then the second attachment is the in-kind cover sheet sample that we're going to be talking about today. So if you haven't printed that, you may want to go ahead and print it. You can pause the video. That way you can follow along. We are only going to talk about a few of the boxes on this form because I just want to focus mainly on what we're going to be using. That way that will be a little bit more beneficial. So box 1, volunteer information. A few things to note about that is that if this is a new volunteer, you would want to check that little box where it says new volunteer. And if it is a new volunteer, it's very helpful if we have their address and phone number. If they're not a new volunteer, we don't necessarily have to have that address and phone number every time. And we do need to make sure that the name is legible. We need to be able to read that name. Box 2 is location. Only one location should be marked, and that should be the primary location or program area that that volunteer is working with. If you have questions about that, you can ask your site coordinator or me. It gets a little confusing on some of the locations such as Washington that have more than one program operation. Box 3 is relationship. That box needs filled out every time. Typically, probably right now, most of the volunteers we have are going to be parents, so you would just mark that parent box. It is also very helpful if you go ahead and write the child's full name, meaning first and last name, on that line. That way, that helps us when we're entering it. If we have a question or we're not sure who this volunteer is, or maybe you forgot to mark the location, we can narrow it down by that child. If it is not a child, or if it is not a parent or guardian of a child, you would just mark the appropriate box. Policy council, community. If you do mark the professional box, we need you to write in what profession they are. So if a dentist would come in and do a dental lesson with your class, this is where you would note that. Box 4, that's the box that you're going to fill in if somebody is coming into your classroom volunteering. So if a super mentor comes in and reads a book, if you've got a retired teacher that comes in and helps in your classroom, and you're just going to put the date, the time, and then correlate the activity code right above it. So you can see the codes right up there. You can put multiple dates in this box as well as more than 1 month. So if you have a volunteer that comes maybe once a month and you want to hang on to this form and fill a few in at a time, that's fine as well. Just make sure that it's a clear designation of what date goes with what time and what activity code. We're going to go ahead and skip box 5, 6, 7, and 8. If you have any of those situations arise and you're not exactly sure how to fill this form out, or even if something's countable or allowable, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. So box 9, home activity. This is where you're going to write in the dates of the home activities that you have attached. So as you see, I've given you 4 different examples. The first one is January 1st through the 19th. The second one has the multiple dates broken out, all within that same range. So what this is showing is if this cover sheet had 5 activities attached with these dates. So this would have multiple dates. I've got it noted as 1/1, 1/4, 1/8, 1/11, and 1/19. So you can see the 4 different options of how you can write that out. You don't have to abbreviate the month if you want. I know some staff prefer to write the full month out. But what I'm really trying to show in this is that if you'll see that arrow pointing down, it says not. You would not want to write this out just as January 2022 if the last activity date was signed on 1/19. And the reason for that is when we enter in-kind into our database, we use the very last activity date. So it's important that these dates are accurate, especially when you're attaching more than one. Now, in the instance that you had a calendar attached, and say the very last date was marked the 30th or the 31st, whatever that date may be, then it would be appropriate to just go ahead and write out the full month like I did on the not section where it says January 22. So these are just some examples of how the date ranges can be filled out. Another frequently question that we see on option 9 is, can it be more than 1 month? So the answer to that is yes. So if a family turns in dates that have January and February, you can write them all on this one form. You just need to be very clear what dates go with what time. That way when we're reviewing it and going to enter it, we're clear. You also want to make sure if you've attached something, such as a home activity, you write "See attached" right there on the volunteer donor signature. In the instance that you filled in box 4, meaning somebody was in your classroom doing something, this is the line that the volunteer would need to sign. And then, of course, staff signature. So whoever's completing this cover sheet and attaching it to the activities would sign. Try to make sure your name's legible in that as well. That way, if we have a question or we're not sure of something, we know what staff to get back with to ask that question. So a couple other things that I just wanted to remind everyone. Home activities, they need to be signed in ink. So if a family is repetitively signing in pencil, crayon, marker, whatever it may be, we need to have the discussion with that family about signing in ink, but it may be something as simple as we just need to provide them with a pen. And that's totally allowable. Any activities, home activities that you're going to attach to this are going to need to make sure that they have objectives and teacher instructions on it. That way, when we are in review and having discussion with reviewers, we're clear what the activity being done was. If you're not sure if something's allowable or not allowable, feel free to ask me, ask your supervisor, site coordinator, whoever it may be. There is also a PowerPoint on SharePoint. There is a tab on the left, training. And then from that, you'll see a Head Start, Early Head Start folder. And within that folder, there is an in-kind PowerPoint that you have probably all went over, but if you haven't, that's a good resource or refresher. It also has lots of ideas of things we've done in the past or ideas how to get volunteers. So with that same note, if you have an idea that you're not sure how to implement or how to pull off, and you want to see if it's something that would be allowable or something that we can do, shoot me an email, send me a call. In-kind's everybody's responsibility, so we need to put a focus on it and not lose sight of it. And then if you have any questions or you're struggling with in-kind or you need extra assistance with in-kind, reach out to me, let me know, and we'll see what we can do to get you some assistance. So if you have any additional questions, let me know.